Hello and welcome to a special episode of Checkpoint Chat. I guess it's not numbered, but this is a special Nintendo focused episode of Checkpoint Chat, sponsored by Nintendo South Africa, graciously. I am joined, as always, by Matthew Figueroa.
I just want to say we did precursor this last week with episode 100 of Nintendo 64. So if you guys didn't know that this following episode was Nintendo sponsored, then are you
This is
even good at
Nintendo
solving
65.
puzzles?
We are exclusively announcing a new console. They've finally broken through the barrier of 64-bit, and we are now at 65-bit.
It's 65. It's taken
Mhm.
decades to get here.
Forget 128-bit or 256-bit. 65 is the next. It's the next big
It's a
leap.
natural progression.
It adds a whole new dimension to your video
My
games.
goodness.
Yes, and you can take those video games on the go
Mhm.
with a Nintendo Switch OLED.
Any Nintendo Switches, let's be honest, but
Any
The
Nintendo
OLED
Switches.
the OLED's the new kid on the block.
Yes, so
yeah.
Nintendo South Africa sponsored this episode. Basically, I mean, they didn't tell us what to talk about. They didn't tell us what we needed to say about the OLED, but basically gave us a Nintendo Switch OLED for a week.
Play
I've
with. If you're on video,
I've played.
I'm the lucky recipient at the moment. Oh, can
Yeah,
reflect.
ooh, look at
See
that.
Alessandro
Look at that
there.
mirror image on the
Oh,
Switch
a dirty
itself.
screen.
Look how shiny it is. Yeah, so I got to play around with it for a couple of days, and then I shipped it off begrudgingly to Matthew. Because
You did have a bit of a tight grip when you handed it over. I was like, hey,
yeah,
just pass it along. Come on.
That should tell you something about the OLED. It's that I really like the OLED. I think it's really
Yeah,
good. I think it's really nice.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. I mean, because we'll get into the nitty gritty, but the long and the short of it is we both have the OG Switch and the Switch Lite, and for when we first saw the OLED, like, it's not like the next Switch. It's not a generational leap or even a mid-gen refresh, if that. So we're like, we don't need it. You know, we've got two Switches, but having played with it now, we both like, huh.
Yeah.
it's something.
I think you can even go back to some older episodes and find quotes from basically both of us saying, "Oh, it looks good, but I don't think I'll upgrade." Whatever. I think it took around
0.35 seconds.
Yeah, it was during even the console setup process. I was like, "Oh shit, this screen is nice." Like the screen is so nice, and I think so let's break it down first before we start talking about the individual features that we really like. So if you are unfamiliar, the Nintendo Switch OLED is the same Nintendo Switch as the original one in terms of internals. The internals have a completely different structure, which was pretty cool to see via iFixit. They tore it down and actually found that there were a lot of changes. But in terms of raw horsepower and like things like the SoC, the RAM, all of that good stuff, identical. Your games are going to run the same across both the systems. The one area internally where they have upgraded is the internal storage. I think it's up to 64 gigs from the original 32, which is that's nice. I think that's a really smart upgrade because 32 never felt enough even at launch.
I mean, Switch games aren't big, but 32 gigs is like
it's
not
nothing.
a lot. So,
I mean, when I got the OLED, I didn't pop in my SD card and I downloaded like Breath of the Wild and Mario and Bayonetta and whatever, and I never once like had to even think about like, oh, will these all fit on here? They just all fit on there. So that's the slight change internally. Externally is where most of the big changes show themselves. So front and center obviously is the new OLED panel, which is slightly bigger. So the size of the Switch hasn't changed. The dimensions haven't changed. They've just shrunk the bezels dramatically. I think you get almost like an inch more of screen real estate, which is, I mean, that's huge when you think about the original being only 6 inches or something.
Like almost the whole screen now.
yeah, it looks a lot better. Like there's far less space around the edges. If you're watching the video version, Matty's got it up there. Like it just looks fuller. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the Switch.
I mean, we can do a straight up comparison because I have the old one here as well.
Oh,
you'll see the.
Look at this.
Hang on. So this is on dark mode, but you can see there's a lot more.
Yeah, especially on the sides, you can definitely tell there's like a lot of space between that and the Joy-Cons. And that, I mean, that was always there and you were always aware of it. But now I feel
now it's a glaring
that you've
like
seen
OMG.
the difference.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like a massive difference. It's very hard to look at the old one and feel as satisfied. I think the other thing that I found to be a big upgrade, and this might be more of a personal thing, but the new screen is laminated. So if you look at your original Switch, you will obviously see the LCD. It almost looks like there's an air gap between the plastic like screen that you touch with your fingers, that's a touch screen, and then the actual panel behind it. And if you've ever owned, even now, the base model of the iPad, the like cheapest version of the iPad, the one that they haven't changed the design of in like 10 years. That is the same thing. There's like there's a noticeable like air gap between where you touch the screen and where the panel actually is. And then as soon as you go up to something like the iPad Air, the screen is laminated on, so there's no gap at all.
Yeah.
And that's the difference here. And like, again, this might be something not many people notice, but it is a much, much better looking and feeling device as a result. It looks far more premium and feels a lot more robust. It doesn't feel like you can like flex the screen, if that makes any sense.
And one nice little touch, if I'm not mistaken, there's a built-in screen protector.
Yes.
Which is can all devices just have that?
Yes.
From everything, can we just make that a standard on phones and switches and iPads and just all of the things? Because that is, it's a nice, just a nice piece of mind.
That screen protector is not necessarily to protect scratches on the screen per se. What it's actually there to do is protect you in case you drop the Switch. So Nintendo obviously says, do not remove this thing. I thought, oh God, it's going to be like a glaring thing that I'll always want to rip off, but I didn't even really notice it. But apparently why it's there, it's so that if you drop the Switch, the glass doesn't shatter everywhere. It will, if it shatters, it will stay intact on the screen. So that's the whole. You can still put an additional screen protector on it, obviously. But yeah, that is a nice addition. And then obviously with it being an OLED panel, you just have the inherent like differences of OLED versus LCD. So if you're unfamiliar with OLED technology, essentially what it means is every single individual pixel on the screen is its own diode. So it can represent white, red, blue, green. It has the 3 subpixels within it. But also when it's trying to represent black, the diode just turns off. So you get perfect black levels because
actual black
because it's off. Like whereas an LCD screen constantly has a backlight behind it because that's how the technology works. So dark areas will look dark, but they'll always have this subtle grayness to them. And if you've never seen an OLED panel in real life, this might be a difficult thing to like convey without seeing it, because your only point of reference will be screens with black and you'll be like, that looks black. But once you see an OLED panel, it's like everything else you start seeing like imperfections of it. I mean, a lot of phones have OLEDs now. The new iPhones have them. Samsung has employed them on their smartphones for years now. And obviously, LG makes the really great TV OLED panels. But I knew what I was looking for when I booted this thing up, and it did not disappoint. It's vibrant. It's got really good contrast as a result of that panel, and it gets suitably bright. So
I just think colors just pop on the screen. Like,
absolutely.
Just to be clear, it's a thing of, if you have the existing Switch, like you'd be none the wiser. But if you put them next to each other, and you just start using the OLED, you go, oh wow.
Yeah.
Going back to the old one, you're like, man, this looks a little bit washed out, or I don't know,
Looks
it just
muted,
doesn't. Doesn't pop as much. I mean, not only the blacks, just the actual color palettes across everything seems, it's just more vibrant. That's the only way I can explain it.
Part of the reason of that is the Switch OLED launches with 2 visual modes, and the default one is vivid. So if you've ever thought of, if you've ever calibrated a TV, the TVs you see in the stores are always put on the most vivid, like picture mode possible, and that's why you see apples that are redder than anything in reality because they just pump up that saturation to like obscene levels. So the default here, I mean, part of the reason why the difference is so stark is because of that mode.
It's setting, yeah.
Yeah, and if you change it to standard, it does mute the colors somewhat and make them more, I would say, accurate. But at the same time, the vivid mode is not the same as, it's not as extreme as one on a TV.
Yeah.
And I find it complements especially Nintendo games like quite well. Like I'm a stickler for like color accuracy, and that's why I like change a lot of the settings of my TV and try and calibrate it to as close as real as possible. But here I was just like pretty happy with keeping it on vivid because I think playing a lot of the games, they just looked better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy that. I mean, you can change it if you want, but I suspect most people won't even know, and they'll just
leave it on. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I know video and pictures do no justice, but I've got a side by side. Oh, that is very.
Oh, look at that.
Let me just move this over. Not happening. Oh wait, there we go.
Coming at you live from Twitter. Matthew's also just muted himself.
Am I unmuted?
Oh no, wait, no. Okay, now you're muted again.
Oh my god. How about now?
Now you're unmuted. Look at that.
Shortcuts
that
are
probably
hard,
won't
guys.
even come through in the recording because you're still recording on your end.
On our side, yeah. But yeah, if you're looking at the video feed, the top one's obviously the original Switch, the bottom's the OLED, and you can just see the top one's like definitely more grays. The bottom one's got like a slightly more purple hue to it, and that's obviously prevalent throughout games. So you start noticing those things. You go, this looks a little bit more vibrant.
I mean, this picture does a really good job of showing you exactly why the OLED is so nice. So if you look at the top one, and especially the blackish areas at the top of the map here above Samus, like you can clearly make out what portion is the screen and where the bezel starts, because that like black is like a grayish, and then the bezel is obviously pure black. Whereas on the OLED Switch, it's much harder to see where it's almost impossible. I actually can't see where the edge of the screen is if I'm just looking at the top, like right corner, because it's just pure black. And it gives, especially something like Metroid, and I guess a lot of other games that rely on moody atmospheres, just a lot more punchiness. Like, I'm sure if you played something like Little Nightmares now on the OLED Switch, it would be a huge difference as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it is interesting that the color grading is kind of like different. You're right; it is a bit more purpley. And if you look at the little explodey thing at the bottom there, it's like a much punchier orange and stuff like that. And also, I guess the screen difference. I mean, if you look at the size difference of Samus, you get an idea of how much more like real estate you kind of get.
It's just that screen is gorgeous, and I mean,
it's
like that is the key selling point, which has you and me going like, maybe I do need an OLED. Like, I mean, it's interesting because like I play my Switch pretty much exclusively handheld, so this to me is like, damn, this is a proper upgrade.
This is an upgrade marketed at you, essentially. It's Nintendo. I mean, there's almost no difference to anyone who plays this primarily on TV because, as you said, the internals are the same. The dock doesn't output at 4K, much to my dismay. I really wish Nintendo would just allow it to upscale internally and not rely on the TV to do that. But yeah, the dock is the same. The only big difference is that it's got an Ethernet port built in now, which might be
that's nice.
very important to competitive players who want like little latency online, or just faster downloads.
And it just saves you having to buy an external accessory, which
of course,
is how you get around that. So
you do lose the USB port on the back because they replaced that with the Ethernet port, but you still got the ones on the side. I think the new dock is nice. It's like, it feels more elegant. It's like rounded and stuff like that. But apart from that, there's nothing for a docked player in terms of like upgrades. This is, like you said, this is an upgrade for someone like you who plays primarily in bed. Yeah. And I think if that is you, I think this is it's a more significant upgrade than I thought originally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite something.
What are the other small things that you've kind of like picked up on that you like?
Just touching on the stand quickly, I was kind of taken aback when I put it in because I was like, oh, it seems a bit like, not wobbly is the incorrect term, but it seems a little bit loose. Until I realized, like, oh, they've actually given some room in the dock. So if you don't know, I'm going to stop calling it the old Switch, the original Switch.
It is 4 years old, though.
It is 4 years old. The original Switch's dock had like a huge design flaw in that the dock was very, very narrow. And that's, if you put your screen in and out of there regularly, you were going to scratch the screen because it basically touched the side when you slid it in.
I basically put little felt tips.
Yeah, I was just going to say, unless you took the effort to like, counter that with little felt tips or something, you were going to scratch your screen or like bugger up your screen protector. It is like very snug. Whereas the new dock, it's like a little bit roomier on that front.
Yeah.
Like there's thumb sucking it, but like at least a couple of millimeters on each side of the screen. Okay, maybe not a couple, but like there's breathing room, if that, which is really good. Just a little peace of mind thing. But I guess the only other thing that stands out is someone who, I haven't traveled for a long time, but when I was traveling, the original kickstand on the Switch was like laughably bad. It was a toothpick that you imagine that on a flight, you're like, oof, that's gonna snap at some point. So I actually ended up getting an external thing that I put my Switch on to hold it up. But now the new kickstand, like it sounds like such a, it sounds like a silly little bullet point on the box, but trust me, this thing is really nice and it feels like solid. And not only that, what I wasn't expecting is that you can actually pivot your screen to whatever angle you want. It's not like one fixed, this is the angle you're going to have it on the surface and that's that. You can actually adjust it because that's how, this kickstand was designed, which is really cool.
It's dramatically better kickstand, like night and day difference. And like you said, it's a small use case type thing.
Yeah, not everyone's going to use it, but if you do use it.
But it comes in handy. I think if you've ever used a Microsoft Surface Pro, it's almost an identical kickstand to that, where you can put it down and then it just like dynamically adjusts or pivots based on the pressure you put anywhere. So you can make really fine adjustments. And that alone is a big upgrade because the previous kickstand was one angle. So despite being like really rickety as hell,
you just had the one.
You had one angle. If your seat was at the wrong angle, your table was too low or whatever, that's it. Like you cannot, you couldn't use it. So I think it's a much better. It also just feels a lot more rigid. It feels it's made of the same like metal that the back of the Switch is made of. It's not just like a plastic, like you said, a plastic toothpick, which is quite apt. So and then obviously the micro SD slot is still underneath the kickstand. But it's a lot easier to get at now. You're not like breaking your fingernails trying to get that little toothpick open.
Yeah, it's just right.
Yeah, it's super simple. Again, I think a lot of what I like about this OLED Switch is that it just feels like refined.
It's just like little quality of life things that they missed the mark first time, and it's like, oh well, we can fix that on this.
Yeah, we can do it better. Yeah. And that's what I love. Like it when I had it in my hands, it just felt. And this is not to say that the original Switch didn't feel premium. I think it did, but at the same time, it felt very toy-like, very playful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This feels like a premium device. This feels like an expensive piece of electronic wizardry that I need to be very careful with.
Yeah.
But at the same time delivers like a premium experience. Like the Joy-Cons feel a lot more stable on the rails. There's I don't know, to me it feels like there was more of a resistance to the clicks, so it just felt like they weren't going to go anywhere. And just there's a bit more heft to the whole device, so it just feels like I don't know, it feels great.
I think you almost you unknowingly had the perfect comparison earlier with the iPad and iPad Air. It's like the original Switch is an iPad. It works. It's great. Like really great device.
Gets everything you need done. Yeah.
But the iPad Air, obviously, it's like the same device but better. You know, there's just a more premium, refined feeling to it, and that's exactly what the OLED Switch is. It's like it's the exact same device, but there are these little changes that make you go like, huh, like this feels really good.
These are things like I didn't need, but now that I've used them, it's difficult to go back.
Yeah, even you mentioned earlier, sorry, the back of the device, it's like it's not, is it a plastic or is it like a metal?
I think it's a metal, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you won't be able to see it, but like I've got both here. You can see the back of my old Switch is like, it's very plasticky, very worn. And this just feels, like,
and I mean, you just held up the original there. If you look at this OLED one, you don't see any of the vents on the back because they're now behind the kickstand, and they get also all these safety markings on there. So when you look at the back of the Switch, again, these are small things, but like
it just
touches, looks more refined. It just looks better. You know what I mean? And this is getting into like nitty picky like areas, but when you are taking the thing as a whole, it is all these small things that, you know, they collect into a big upgrade to me. You know, the screen is the main star, no doubt. We haven't even spoken about, because I think both of us play with like headphones or whatever, but if you play with the speakers, you get a much better stereo imaging from the dual speakers now. So that's great as well. So it really does feel like Nintendo looked and they were like, we could make the portable experience a lot better.
Yeah.
You know, and if players want that premium experience, they can buy this. And if they don't, they can buy the OG one or the Switch Lite. There definitely feels like there's a logical switch for a multitude of buyers now. So I think, you know, I ragged on this a bit in earlier episodes, and that was because I hadn't tried it. But I literally from the moment I booted it up, I messaged you and I was like, oh my God, this thing is actually it's pretty amazing.
You went very quickly from I don't need this to
like genuinely looking how to get one, because and I play, you know, I play a good mix of docked and undocked, so I'm not like you where this upgrade would change all my Switch playtime. But at the same time, you know, when I do play on the couch now, I will always be aware now playing on my old Switch that there is something better, and that will bug me. So yeah. What games did you kind of like test out, or have you been playing on your OLED?
I think the most obvious one that we've both been playing is the new Metroid Dread, which it's funny because when it launched, we kind of looked at the style, thought, that's a very nice looking, you know, art style, very sorry, I keep using the word vibrant, but vibrant color palette, like those reds and the, you know, the whites and the blacks.
Samus's white and blue suit.
But that is like the perfect launch game for this unit, because it really showcases the screen very well. Like it's, look, I've been playing Metroid a lot on my original Switch. Like phenomenal game, but it just sings a little bit more on the OLED just because of that, you know, contrast and the ability to represent colors better. Like you pointed out, the game's very moody and it almost relies on creating almost like a horror-esque feel. And it conveys it a little bit better on the OLED purely because of the screen. And also that real estate doesn't go unappreciated either. It's nice to have a slightly bigger
more
screen.
of the map at a time is a nice one. Yeah, I definitely think that it was planned to have this launch with the OLED, because it you know, out of all the games I played, this was the one that showed the difference the most for sure. Like you said, the color palette and the moodiness of the game are just showpieces for what the OLED does better than the older one. And I did, I docked it and I played it on my OLED TV. And what was nice was that when I was done and undocked and went straight to my screen, my eyes didn't need to adjust to like a new type of picture style. It just kind of looked the same, and I was pretty happy with that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's great. When it comes to the benefits of the broader, screen real estate, the game that really struck me as better was Hades. I played a few runs of Hades. Oh, I should say that bringing over my data to the new Switch was like it was easier than I thought it would be, put it that way. I like loaded up my profile. Okay, obviously you need to have Nintendo Switch Online for this functionality, but all my cloud saves are there for games that supported it. And so I picked up Hades and I picked up Metroid Dread, like where I left them.
Left off,
and uploaded the saves, and those are now on my OG Switch. So, but yeah, Hades, Hades is a game where seeing your surroundings is really important to your survival. So not only did the OLED make those colors out of each of the 4 areas like really pop, that is a game that really benefits from saturated colors with its art style. But just having more space to kind of like survey the area, it made the game easier to pass and read. Not that it was unreadable before, but it's just better now.
I think that's like probably a common theme you'll find, like all the games that we talk about. It's a thing of, I loved it on the OG Switch, but it just pops a little bit more on the OLED. I mean, and Hades is actually like, I'm sad I don't own Hades on the Switch, because that I think is a great example. No, I play it on PC. That again is also like similar to Metroid in that, like, what a great game to showcase, some real bright colors.
Oh my gosh. Like, I mean, so many of those powers, like, if you get the weak power from Aphrodite, like that sort where it changes your cast into sort of like into like a sort of shotgun, like that burst of pink comes off like really prominently, or Poseidon's like wave effect when you hit enemies against a wall, or Zeus's electricity. It's so good. It's so vibrant, and it changes the game in a dramatic way. Like, it looks really, really good. I had a great time playing Hades.
But also, of course, I had to boot up the best Switch game, Breath of the Wild. Which it's interesting because you said that Breath of the Wild for you had like the least impact in terms of difference. But like, it's interesting because I played it recently, so just seeing it again on a bigger screen, I was immediately like, ooh.
Okay.
Like,
that's interesting.
I wouldn't mind playing this again.
I mean, that could be the fact that I haven't seen it in a while, so I guess you would have a better read.
It might not necessarily be that so much as also the Breath of the Wild palette is also like somewhat subdued compared to Dread and Hades. I mean, like, Breath of the Wild is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it is more like intentionally, like, what's the sort of term I'm looking for? It's like just reined back, I guess. It's almost like a more simplistic, it's not simplistic at all, but it's almost like a more simplistic color palette compared to those two games. Like, it's not so much in your face, it's very subtle, almost like, I don't want to say more arty.
It's a bit more subdued.
Subdued is
it's definitely a bit more subdued.
But again, wouldn't say no to playing that again.
Oh, absolutely not. Like you said, the bigger screen helps the most there. I just think, it's not a color palette that benefits from the saturation of the colors as much as the others. That's not to say I didn't notice a difference. It was the one where I was like, oh yeah, this looks better. But like, when I'm playing Dread, I'm like, oh my God, this is like game changing, like completely different type of game. I think the same can be said for Mario Odyssey. I booted that up.
And that's one game I never got around to downloading, but that's
a game with lots of juicy colors everywhere. I mean, you go to like New Donk City, or the I forget the area that was just like food themed.
That's been a long time
with the like where you can change into that little lava blob and roll around in the liquid. Like, really good. Like those colors just sing off the new screen. Mario's hat is like super red, and New Donk
It's the
City
reddest
has
it's
all
ever
these.
been.
I mean, New Donk City just looks better. It's got all this. It's got so much better contrast. Like it, darker shaded areas actually look suitably dark now. So it's not just the fact that this game is better for moody games. Games where you have stark differences of color, like really, really pop as well. So,
well, I mean, I never played Odyssey, but I did boot up. What's it called? It's Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury.
Oh, and Bowser's Fury, yes.
That's a game you still have to play. Bowser's Fury, I booted that up. But that's it's not a bad example, but like that game runs better in docked. Because in handheld, I think it limits the. I could be wrong, but I think it limits the FPS.
The frame rate.
Yeah,
in Bowser's Fury it does.
Yeah, in Bowser's Fury. So, but I mean, like on that front, handheld's not the way to play. But if that's your only way you're playing the game, like again, the colors sing. It's Mario, and 3D World's the same thing. It's just very bright and just colorful. I mean, it's good Mario fun.
Yeah, like the Mario games are good because they bounce between so many different
so many
levels.
Different
So they give you a real like treat in that regard. I played also some Bayonetta 2 again, a game that also benefits from just lots of color pop everywhere. That looked really good as well. So I'm very curious to see Bayonetta 3, what it eventually looks like on the OLED Switch.
Well, the one game you have to try on the OLED Switch one day, the best showcase piece, Celeste. It's got those. Ooh. It's got good whites and blues, a bit of yellow and red. I booted that up, and that's same thing of like I've played this game a million times, but I could do it again.
I can only imagine the what is it? The third act when you're in the like mountain, the Mirror Mountains. With those the sections with that like black galaxy like blob
I think
stuff.
that's the second act. Well,
isn't the second the hotel in Ishiro?
No, that's after.
Oh gosh, okay. I swapped the two then. Yeah.
But
I bet that looks really good. Yeah. Okay.
So I think the long and the short of it is that old games
they look good.
They look good.
They look good on the Switch. Yeah,
shocker.
Again, an OLED screen, of course, would have this effect, but it is still nice to bounce between the two and see the difference.
Yeah.
I think if you're looking to buy a Switch now, obviously it's a bit hard to get the OLED because it's sold out, at least locally.
I think there've been some issues overseas as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, definitely. I think this just comes back to the whole semiconductor shortage and all of that. And it's a bit more of a considered decision locally because of the price difference between the two. I think it's 1,000 Rand more than the base Switch. I know overseas the base Switch is $300 and then the OLED one is $50 more. But here I think it's a difference of 1,000 Rand. So the OLED Switch is 8,000 Rand at retail. And the original Switch is
it's 6,999. Yeah, it's a grand cheaper.
So it's a grand. So
just for comparison, the Switch Lite is retailing at it's 4,499.
Yeah, so it's not I don't think it's within impulse purchase territory. You know what I mean? $1,000 is a lot of money. So definitely something to consider, whether you need the upgrade, but I would definitely say that it is a worthwhile upgrade if you choose to go that route. I think it's really good. So
again, it's one of those things of we had no intention, but having got to play a variety of games, it's a question of like, I don't need it, but I really want it.
I don't need it, but I'm currently thinking about ways I can soften the blow on getting one type of thing.
I look good with the Switch OLED. Like I could do this.
Yeah, I could do this all the time.
I want to be seen in public with it.
Yeah, essentially. Basically, I want people to know I have this OLED Switch. I want them to know that I'm having a good time with this thing.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a really good device, a really well-built device. And I think a lot of people, I personally think people will upgrade to this and be quite happy. And I think people who have never played a Switch, this is the one you should get, in my opinion.
100%. It's if you don't have a Switch, like, look, a grand is a lot of money, but if you could push up to the OLED, like, it's a no-brainer. It's for for R1,000 extra. There are a lot of little extra bells and whistles that make it worthwhile. Like the screen, if they just added the new screen, that itself is really worth it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's the R1,000 is a bit of a hit, but you're getting it is the iPad versus iPad Air situation. You are definitely getting a premium experience.
Just for my own knowledge, because we didn't touch on it, but would the OLED have a better battery as well? Because OLED uses less battery, or is that like negligible because it's bright or something?
So this obviously ships with the better battery that was part of the 2019 version of the. But Nintendo did say to expect around the same battery life, and I think that comes down to the screen being bigger.
Yeah,
so it needs to power more.
I had the exact same experience with the OLED that I did with my original Switch, where it was the thing of when I got the original Switch, I played Breath of the Wild, and I was like, damn, this is a big screen. Like, this battery's never going to last. But it does. It lasts, like, depending on what you're playing, anywhere from 2 to 4, maybe 5 hours, let's say. But when I had the OLED, I was like, yo, this thing is so bright. Like, this battery's never going to last. But it will. I mean, it's designed to last for a couple of hours. So, yeah, on that front. I was just curious if there was any, like, upgrade in that front. Like, this OLED use less power, but I suppose the bigger screen, it's kind of cancels out what would, be
I think that's what Nintendo is kind of saying. I think that's why they were, maybe it does last slightly longer, but I think they're hesitant to put a pin in it and say it definitely lasts an hour longer, because then it becomes something that people want to like test and actually see bear out, The other thing, of course, is this has nothing to do with the Switch specifically, but OLED panels in general obviously have the potential for burn-in, where essentially the diodes for each OLED will eventually start. Burn-in is the wrong word, but they'll be retaining some of the image. And you only really see this on TVs, OLED TVs that are used as monitors, where there's lots of static images that don't change position, or like OLED TVs that just have like CNN on the entire day, and that has like the logo in the same spot and doesn't move.
Yeah.
So I don't think for a gaming device you should really worry about it, but obviously try not keep the Switch screen on the home screen for like
not
ever. You know what I mean? As long as you're moving things around, you're good. And keep a setting for like dimming the screen automatically on. You know what I mean? Just take care of it.
Just you don't have to that stuff,
you don't have to like be super careful with the screen. Just like be aware that that's an OLED thing. But like so many phones have OLED screens now, and they've kind of there's a lot of software under the hood that ensures that burn-in is reduced dramatically. So I don't think it will be an issue, personally.
Yeah.
So in terms of Nintendo games that you kind of want to see on the Switch going forward, we have a bunch of games that are coming soon.tm that I'm really curious to see on the OLED. I think the one we're both most excited for is Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever it ends up being called. Yeah, I mean that I didn't even need a new OLED Switch to be excited for that, to be honest. But now, especially with the when you think about the first trailer for that game, it was like underground and almost like spooky horror vibes. Oof.
Yeah.
It's gonna sing on that OLED screen.
Look real good, yeah. Is along with those big bright blue skies and those white clouds.
and the like greenish, like very vibrant green, like arm power thing that Link has going on. I'm not sure what's going on there, but there's some stuff happening on his arm. So I'm keen to see that. What other games do you think will benefit a lot?
From you mentioned Bayonetta 2 earlier, and after 45 years, we finally have some semblance of a release date for Bayonetta 3. So I think
definitely
that will
feels
also,
that long.
That'll look real good on the Switch. I mean, that's almost like I'd compare it to Hades in that it's frantic, but it's like 3D.
Yeah.
It's sort of top down. It's a third person character action game. And I think just that those games are, optimized to be 60 FPS running fluidly. It's going to look real nice. So yeah, can't wait for that.
I want to see that witch time on OLED.
Sound
that whole purple hue.
You want to hear the sound effect on those dual speakers as well, the dual stereo.
So good. I mean, has there ever been a better parry mechanic in a game? I mean, Metroid Dread gets close.
Metroid Dread's got a good one.
Witch time is up there as one of the best feeling like blocks and parries. Oof.
Yeah.
It's real good. Real good. I think the other one I'm excited for, which is also, I think, quite close, Splatoon 3.
When is that? Is that fair?
I think they've just said 2022 so far.
Oh, so it's not. No,
I don't think they've pegged a full. I might be wrong, but I don't think they've put a month on it. But yeah, that game, I mean, lots of very colorful paint with lots of nice sun reflections coming off of things. And obviously
lots of ray tracing. Not ray tracing.
lots of Nintendo ray tracing.
Nice.
The new game also has a whole new kind of vibe to it in this sort of like post-apocalyptic way, which adds some new colors to it, I think. Especially the like sort of like desert wasteland that you see in the trailers might look really good on there. But
yeah,
listen, I still cannot believe you haven't played Splatoon, because I think it's a game that you will absolutely adore. It's one of my favorite competitive games out there. It's so, I mean, I said this many times, but Splatoon, the very first Splatoon was the reason I bought a Wii U. I had no interest in Nintendo titles before then, but I saw Splatoon and I'm like, this is such a novel idea. And I played it.
I must have it.
Yeah, I played it at Rage that year and I was like, this is incredible. And I sourced like a secondhand Wii U.
Nintendo shill.
Splatoon is just fantastic. I really love this game. I think they're so creative and I'm very excited to play the third one.
Yeah, that's the holy trifecta of games to look forward to at the moment. I mean,
Splatoon, Breath of the Wild 2.
There'll be more that we've yet to see. I don't know, Nintendo.
What about a Metroid Prime 4?
Metroid Prime 4? I'm sure there's a new Mario somewhere on the horizon.
Yeah, a new Mario. Like, I feel like that's a, Breath of the Wild 2 announcement and then like a tease for a new Mario. That's just like the cycle they're going to go on. Yeah, there has to be. I wouldn't be shocked
Galaxy
by an Odyssey
3?
2. I'd play an Odyssey 2.
You have to play Bowser's Fury, because then you'll know.
And Galaxy. I did start Galaxy though the other day.
Oh yeah,
pretty good.
That is pretty good. That is the best Mario game.
It takes some time to get used to the running around a globe as a planet, but boy, it also looks great. My goodness,
that was on the Wii, right? That was I love the game, and I mean, when that collection came out, I replayed Galaxy like happily. It wasn't even a thing of like, oh, I'm going to do it. It's like, oh, it's Mario.
Is that really the first game that Rosalina appears?
Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating.
But Bowser's Fury is that, like, I mean, I spoke about it at length when we reviewed the game. Was it Feb this year? Sure. Where's this year gone?
Was it this year or a lot?
No, it was this year. It was like early this year.
Yeah.
That game is like a very clear indication of we're experimenting. This could be the future of Mario games. And I sincerely hope that is what they go for, because just this semi-open world Mario playground
you want those cat shines.
Yeah, to me it feels like this is the evolution of what Breath of the Wild did for Zelda. So yeah,
like a free-form open world Mario.
Yeah, I'd put money that there's a Mario game, if not next year, like show next year and then release the following year. So
I'd put I actually find it kind of surprising that it's been this long since Odyssey. I mean, obviously they've done things like Bowser's Fury and stuff, but I really thought we were going to get an Odyssey 2 before we got a Breath of the Wild 2. So yeah, I think we are due
Except
that.
Odyssey came out after Breath of the Wild. So
only a few months. It was the same year. So
but still, they're keeping.
It definitely felt like Odyssey was meant to be a launch title as well.
Yeah.
But they thought, okay, well, let's put it out before the holidays because that's really going to, spike sales again, which I think was the smartest move anyway.
Right move,
so,
yeah.
Should we get to some questions then regarding the Nintendo OLED that were sent in by some good viewers?
I'm just putting a little timestamp because reasons. So we actually had 2 questions. I'll read the first one because it's a troll answer. We all know. From a good pal, Best to Bash says, "Can I get an OLED for free? Okay, thanks." So no, you cannot.
I wish I could get an OLED for free. That'd be great. It's going to be really hard giving this one back because, boy,
I mean, when you gave it to me, it was your grip was kung fu tight. To be like, hey, hand over the Switch. But we have,
sure. I don't know.
It's a tough time. It's like giving away your child. Like, no.
Yeah. Please, sir.
Take the other one. I don't need this one.
I mean, we could just pack the old one in. They are the same size.
But, more or less, yeah.
More or less. I could just be
it's funny, you say that. So we're completely diverting, yeah. If we put it back in like this, which Switch is this now that I'm holding up? Tell me, from the video feed, which one am I currently... Oh, damn it, I gave it away. Which one am I holding up here?
Okay, I didn't see the back there. Okay, so it's definitely the old one because, again, you can see like the screen not being laminated. You can definitely make out where the bezel starts and where the screen starts. It's a gray. Like, hold up the new one to the screen without the Joy-Cons.
Let me just hold up the new one here quickly. Hang on. Here you go. Here's the new one.
No, it's not. You're lying to me. You're lying to me.
Here's the new one.
I mean, look at that. It's like black. You can when you take it off axis, you can see the bezels, but it's so much harder. Oh, look at me. I'm just podcasting with myself.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, it's a lovely little unit, let me tell you. But you're right. If we put the old one back in the box, they'll never know. If with the plastic covering it, you'll have to take it out. So
yeah, you'll have to. Yeah.
But then we will be in another country. So we have another question from. So I could be saying this wrong. I think it's Oxidize or Oxidize _ was taken.
Okay. Oxidize was taken. Sure.
So they say, they ask, is it worth the hype or should I just get a Switch Lite instead? So this is an interesting question because, I mean, we've touched on this already, right? Saying if you don't have a Switch and you are choosing between the OG Switch and the OLED Switch, like, it's a no-brainer. Go for the OLED if you can help it. But on that, if you see an OLED at an original Switch at a good price, like, by all means, just get the Switch. Great device. I mean, Nintendo don't have to pay me to say this. Like, we all know, if you listen to Checkpoint Chat, like, I love the Switch. Like, I'll sing its praises till the day I die. But the Switch is a much lower price point. So then it becomes a thing of like, I can get a Switch Lite for 4.5, or I can get the OLED for 3,500 Rand more. And then it becomes a question of, do you want the dark functionality? I mean, that's the question that existed before the OLED. Like, would you get the OG Switch because you want to, have the option to play it on your screen, or are you playing exclusively handheld? But even on that, the OLED being, so as someone who who predominantly plays handheld, I want the OLED because, it's a bigger screen. It's more, in my eyeballs.
Yeah. It's
I don't know. It's a tricky question to answer because I guess it relies on how big is your wallet. Because if you want an entry into the great catalog of Switch and indie games, like a Switch Lite it's a great purchase. Like, since I got my Switch Lite, if you're looking at the video feed, I got a Switch Lite when it launched. Was it 2 years ago now, or a year ago?
I think it was 2 years ago. I recall it being around 2 years ago. Let me double check.
When we got the Switch Lites, so again, like, I play exclusively. Well,
yeah, September 2019. So 2 years, just over 2 years ago.
I mean, I use this way more than my original Switch now because it's the portable Switch. But now that we've got Oh, that's the wrong one. Now that we've got this one in the picture, I'm like, you need to decide, what screen size do you want? Look at the difference there. Like the OLED is huge, but it's beautiful.
And also a lot heavier. Like I think the thing that people forget about with the light is like it's far less, I love the Switch, but it does become a bit heavy if you're holding it, if you're lying in bed. And the light like fixes that almost completely.
It's way like, sorry for the lack of the, on the nose, it's way more portable. It's lighter. Hilarious. But if you want to look at just a raw size comparison, audio listeners are getting the worst experience here, but just imagine I'm holding the Switch Lite.
It is actually so much bigger.
It's it's humongous compared to the Switch Lite. And again, this is a lot heavier to hold compared to this. But if you're looking for the better visual experience, it goes without saying, the OLED it's a no-brainer. But if you travel a lot and you don't really have the extra money to spare, the Switch Lite is great. I've put so many hours into this thing. I replayed Breath of the Wild on this thing.
Look at that D-pad on the
Look at these
Switch
Breath
Lite.
of the Wild D-pads. Yeah, I mean, do you think I like the game? I don't know. I guess so. So I guess it really just depends on I don't know. If
depends
you
on how much you use your Switch.
Yeah. Also, travel's a thing. The Switch is very portable, but if you travel a lot, maybe having a bigger Switch is just not a vibe. It's not that much heavier, but if you've got a lot of stuff on your back, it's a noticeable difference. So
yeah, the Switch Lite definitely feels like something you toss in a backpack and don't think about. It just works in that way. I would not toss a Nintendo Switch OLED into my backpack without a case or a cover on it. So
I would toss it into a bed of pillows.
That's definitely an aspect to consider as well. Do you want something, I'm not going to say any of these three are rugged by any means. They are still electronic devices that need to be treated with care. But on the scale of which ones you need to care for more, the OLED is definitely significantly higher on that list than the Switch Lite. So it comes down to that use case.
More premium product to handle with more care, I guess.
Also, if you want to play with other people, it's a lot easier on the OG Switch and the OLED. Yes, 100%. You can pay Joy-Cons to the Lite, but you can't do the Switch thing of shoop shoop, and now suddenly you've got two controllers. Yeah. So, and an extra pair of Joy-Con is 1.3. So you start knocking on the door of the price of the OG Switch. If you consider a Switch Lite and a pair of Joy-Cons. So
look, I think the long and the short of it is, if you have the money, the OLED is probably the one to go for, but you won't be disappointed with the Switch Lite. It's a great Nintendo device. They all are. I've got the whole family here. My goodness.
Everyone's here.
Sheesh.
Soon Sakurai's just going to come through your door and be like, even I'm here.
I'm here. How is he not the last Super Smash character? I mean, come on.
I know, man. Sora, pretty good. But Sakurai instead,
come on.
Even
what's
better.
Going on here? Yeah. But that's everything we have to say on the OLED Switch. We love it.
It's a good console. It's better than I expected, which is it is a surprise to me.
It's a bad thing that it's better than we expected, because now we have to find the money.
It's bad for my wallet. Yeah, it's very bad for my wallet. I'm still of the opinion that if I never tried it, I probably would have been able to be like, it's fine, I don't need it. And I suspect that will be the same for a lot of people. But I think if you go to a store and try it, it'll be hard not to want to upgrade. But I also think it's well worth that R1,000 premium if you don't have a Switch. It is. I mean, if you're spending $7,000 already, I think the $8,000 is a worthwhile investment to a much better Switch.
Instead of buying a first game with the Switch, don't buy it. Get the unit. Just starve yourself for a month, save up, and then buy.
Eat beans for a month.
Eat beans for a month, and then buy a game the following month. It's good.
It's very, very good. I'm excited. I mean, there's Animal Crossing expansion coming out soon. I would love to see Animal Crossing on this OLED. I actually never tried it, but the nighttime with the fireworks might look pretty great.
Yeah, I have reservations about Animal Crossing only because the fact that an island's tied to console is just a hoop to jump through. I think you can transfer them, but it's like
I've heard that is one of the sticking points. Like transferring the island is a bit of
one of the reasons I didn't try it on the OLED is I was like, I'm not down for that.
That's part of the reason as well. I mean, if I bought an OLED, I would bite the bullet and do it.
You best believe that with all the new Animal Crossing content coming out. I'm going to go count settling my debt to Tom Nook.
Have you seen there's a game streaming setup you can buy for your house now?
Yeah, of course. It's like a
4 monitor setup. Damn. I mean, why do you need friends on the island then? You've got 4 monitors. You can just play, multiplayer games with your other animal friends. So now you can own a Nintendo Switch and a PC on the island.
Exactly.
So clearly Nintendo only likes those two.
Yeah. That's a fact.
No Xbox or PlayStation.
Imagine there was crossover because they have a great relationship with like Xbox at the very least. Imagine there was a thing of like you can put an Xbox in your house.
They should put the Xbox fridge in Animal Crossing.
Oh, amazing!
So not an Xbox, but just the Xbox fridge. Oh my god,
incredible!
So
you never
cool.
know. We'll see.
That'd be so cool. I'd love that.
You heard it here first.
But that is this special episode of Checkpoint Chat.
Sequel to Nintendo 164.
Yes, this is a Nintendo 165. Again, thank you so much to Nintendo South Africa for supplying us with the OLED Switch for a limited time and for sponsoring this episode.
Yep.
If you if you want to buy anything Nintendo from them, they have an online store, great shipping speeds, good prices.
Yeah.
You get lots more than just Switch stuff. You've got merch there like T-shirts and keychains and toys.
Nintendo representation locally is like really good. Yeah, so they've got a fantastic website. If you're in the Joburg area, the Sanson store. Yeah, here's a little interesting nugget. That Sanson Nintendo store was a pop-up store. And
it's still there.
For all intents and purposes, was meant to be a limited run, but it's there years later because I think local peeps have been doing a fantastic job with the brand. So
it's like that one friend that comes over and then just decides to live with you.
Hey, Nintendo, they're staying next. Oh, they haven't moved out.
Oh, they've moved in. Oh my god,
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a cool store. I always end up spending money when I go there. The merch there is really. I mean, got a Splatoon shirt. Well, okay.
Oh, yeah.
The Splatoon shirt's not from there, but yes.
Look at this. I've got my Luigi shirt. Represents.
Oh, God. No, but they're really good. And also, just in general, Nintendo South Africa has been a very nice, strong support of the show from the start. So we appreciate their continuing support. So go show them some love. But yeah, that's going to be this episode of Checkpoint Chat. We hope you have enjoyed our breakdown of the OLED Switch. If you have decided to buy one or haven't, be sure to let us know on social platforms or, send us questions for the next episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Just hit us up. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
But that's going to be it for this week. Have a great one, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.